Early on, we knew that Zuko would turn from Aang's opponent to his ally, but we didn't know exactly when it would happen or how. The art of animating the series. We all love a good redemption story, where a character changes from being the villain to being one of the heroes, them slowly struggling with their change of heart, their shifting ideology, coming to realize what they've stood for isn't exactly on the right side anymore. From Darth Vader finally throwing Sidious over, to Vegeta and Hiei joining their souls' respective party, or to my personal favorite, Zuko finally breaking free from his father's control. A lot of the time, to me, redemption stories always feel a bit sudden, as if the characters magically decide to just change sides. Whereas Zuko was a bit different. It took him 3 seasons for him to change side, and we could see a lot of his internal debate and growth that played throughout these different seasons. In the first season, he's a bit cocky, angry, and mad, and bent on capturing the Avatar. With the second season, he starts off with the same way of thinking. He still hopes that if he captures the Avatar, his honor will be restored. But as the season progresses, his viewpoint changes. He almost abandons the hunt for the Avatar, and he almost settles down to his life as a common Earth Kingdom citizen. Only for that to go crashing down when his sister offers him the very thing he has coveted for much of his life. And then, in the third season, when he finally has everything he's ever desired, he realizes that's not what he really wants at all. I think it's because of this, because of the slow progress that is his redemption, it kind of truly feels earned versus just being thrown in there all of a sudden.
Because their honor didn't hinge on the Avatar's capture. Mine does.
Bryan Cranston
has said in interviews what he likes to try to do is to focus the character down to one specific trait. For the character of Walter White, it's pride. And I think the same thing can be applied for Zuko, and that's honor. The very beginning of the series, the first line that he ever talks about is about restoring his honor. What exactly his honor is changes from capturing the Avatar to being able to grow as an individual to being able to take down his father and restore peace to the world at large. As the series progresses, he grows a lot from this one trait. At the beginning of the series, he seems like this mad person obsessed with capturing the Avatar purely to restore his honor, but because of the storm, we learn about his tragic backstory, and in turn, we learn about his compassion for the members of the Fire Nation. He does do absolutely terrible things, don't get me wrong, in the first season, including burning down the Kyoshi Warriors' home, but he ultimately does that when he believes that he has to in his pursuit to capture Aang. In the second episode, when he captures the Avatar, he leaves the rest of the Southern Water Tribe alone. He could have easily destroyed that entire village, but he chooses to let them go. Because in a way, he's not a cruel person. He has what he wanted, and there isn't really any reason for him to destroy it. Versus how some other Fire Nations might treat this situation. He is obsessed with his goal, but he isn't blinded by it. He chooses both the life of his crew and his uncle over pursuing the Avatar 2 different times. The show never really wants us to hate Zuko, but for us to almost feel sympathetic to him.
And suffering will be your teacher. I looked away.
Yes, he's trying to capture Aang, but we kinda can't feel a little sympathetic to him once we understand his line of thoughts for capturing the Avatar. If he captures Aang, this will lead to his honor being restored, and in turn he will be allowed to return to the Fire Nation, and in turn his father will love and respect him. If we simplify that statement into its core, Zuko wants to capture the Avatar because he believes in doing so his father will not only love him, but respect him. something that he has never had before, where his sister has been bathed in it. His need and desire for this only amplified when his mother left. Zuko's mother was the sole person to give him this love and affection because Zuko isn't like his father and sister. He isn't cruel and evil, he's kind-hearted, and as I said before, a compassionate person.
He was one of the best friends I ever had. And he was from the Fire Nation, just like you. If we knew each other back then, do you think we could have been friends too?
That speech that Aang gives him at the end of the Blue Spirit forces us to reevaluate Zuko, not as this monster, but as this lost boy that has been brainwashed by propaganda. The speech not only sifts our way of thinking of Zuko, but also Zuko's own thoughts of himself, ones that will cause him to have internal debates for much of the series, and could be seen as the driving force that kickstarts his redemption. Well, more or less would kickstart his willingness to redeem himself. I said earlier that Zuko isn't blinded by his obsession with capturing the Avatar, but it's only kind of true for the first 2/3 of season 1. He kind of becomes a little unstable and starts to think less clearly because each time he tries to capture the Avatar, he fails at it. Which in turn, he feels like he has a failure of life in general. This feeling of uselessness and desire to prove himself causes him to attempt to capture Aang during the siege of the Northern Water Tribe, with no thoughts or planning, and as a result, he almost freezes to death. And if it wasn't for the rest of Team Avatar, he probably would have. But it's this final moment of failure that causes his father to send Azula, and in turn he becomes a fugitive, forcibly free from the Fire Nation's control. He has been forced into a brand new world. If the first season is us getting to know him deep down, the second season is about reflection. It's about him evaluating what he has been taught is the crown prince of the Fire Nation, and what the reality of the world truly is. What is his destiny? Zuko has basically lost every hope. That scene where he cuts off his hairpiece is actually very symbolic. So within the Fire Nation culture, cutting off that hairpiece is almost akin to death. Hair at large is a symbol of honor. You can see this reflective within the first season. In the first season, he has no honor, and as such, his head is almost completely shaven. In the second season, his hair grows a bit longer as he starts to gain more honor. And the final season, when his hair is the longest, he finally has honor. He has redeemed himself. But back to cutting the hairpiece, right? So by cutting the hairpiece, he has, in a sense, killed off his Fire Nation persona. And yet he still holds on to this thin veil of if he captures the Avatar, everything will be okay.
There's no honor for me without the Avatar.
Zuko, even if you did capture the Avatar, I'm not so sure it would solve our problems. Not now.
And there is no hope at all.
No, Zuko. You must never give in to despair. Allow yourself to slip down that road and you surrender to your lowest instincts. In the darkest times, hope is something you give yourself. That is the meaning of inner strength.
And he doesn't fully assimilate into the Earth Kingdom until months later. He refuses to. He views the citizens of the Earth Kingdom as lesser to himself, ungrateful brats rebelling against the glory of the Fire Nation, donning the Blue Spirit mantle as a way to steal and pillage from the various villages, to try to terrify them to get what he wants. Where Iroh, who is very much the voice of reason, doesn't. He understands the people are more or less or just captured, unwilling bystanders into this great war It isn't really until Zuko is alone he kind of realizes how wrong he is. It's him being alone that allows him to self-reflect, both on his past and of the current events going on. We understand much more or less about who Zuko really is under this facade than he has been parading around for most of the series. Having Zuko become the protagonist, the hero in Zuko alone, allows us to directly see Zuko's change of attitude to the Earth Kingdom. It's filled with normal average people trying to get by, and also power-hungry and cruel individuals, much the same as his home nation. With a slow realization, he rejoins Iroh, much more willing to fully assimilate into the culture of the Earth Kingdom. In truth, when he finally decides to go to Ba Sing Se, his redemption could have ended there, with him living a humble life. But I don't think it would work that well if it did. Because that driving force, the very thing that has compelled him into doing all of his previous actions, it still exists. He still hasn't had that Darth Vader versus Darth Sidious moment where he's able to cast away the very person that has been dictating all of his actions that he's taken up to this point. There will always be this thought that he might fall to temptation until he deals with the inner conflict. And Zuko almost falls back twice. The first time is when he goes to Appa and tries to capture him. In this moment, he believes if he captures Appa, he will be able to capture Aang, and in probably one of the best speeches that Iroh gives him.
I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you?
Stop it, Uncle. I have to do this.
I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
It forces him to think and to evaluate who he really is. The question, why is he doing all of this? Is it for his own sake, or is it because he wants to? Because it is truly his destiny? Or is it because it's someone else's destiny that has been forced onto him? Ultimately, Zuko chooses to free Appa, and as a result, he becomes incredibly sick in that very moment. He changed who he is, rebelling against his entire ideology that he has held on to for so many years. He has been focused on capturing the Avatar to restore his honor, and he finally breaks free from that. But temptation will always lead us astray, and temptation, thy name is Azula. She's able to play Zuko like an absolute fiddle, offering him everything that he has ever wanted. Before that moment when he's locked in a cave, we truly believe that he has changed. Even Katara believed that he is true, willing to use up some of the spirit water to heal his scars. And he betrays her, along with the rest of Team Avatar, but more importantly, he also betrays Iroh because his sister, as I said, offers him every single thing he's ever wanted, and he can't help but take it. At that very moment, he ignores the complete manipulative person that Azula is, and if you want a bit more information about Azula's mental breakdown, click that link up in the corner. When I first watched it, Zuko's betrayal of everyone, I was a little bit of in shock, to be honest, and that also might have been because of how young I was when I first watched it. The entire progress of the second season is him redeeming himself, right? Him improving who he is, and essentially becoming his own person, only for him to revert back to the last season. But as I said before, until he's truly able to taste the bitterness of the nectar, he will always wonder what it tastes like. he will always wonder what exactly his father's love and appreciation is. Zuko comes back with the elixir, and this elixir is him finally having the respect of his father. But the thing is Zuko is no longer the person that set out to capture the Avatar before the series began. In truth, that individual that coveted that for so long doesn't really exist anymore. It is in the third season that he comes to realize this, and more importantly, that he doesn't need his father's love or appreciation. In all honesty, he has had a father figure for a long time, but he never realized it. An individual that was with him on his darkest moments, that guided him to be a better person, and that's, as we know, Iroh.
You are not the man you used to be, Zuko. You are stronger and wiser and freer than you have ever been. And now you have come to the crossroads of your destiny. It's time for you to choose. It's time for you to choose good.
Who he betrayed, and because of this betrayal to Iroh, he feels mad and upset with himself. But he also feels like it's his destiny to be by his father's side. And it isn't until he really learns about his family past on his mother's side that he's able to break free from the notion that he doesn't have to be his father's son. He isn't forced to confine himself to this destiny that his father put forth to him, and he's able to choose his own destiny. The Earth Kingdom changed him a lot. And because of what I said earlier, he realizes the Fire Nation is not this bringer of hope and glory to everyone. It's really kind of the enemy. Every single moment of his journey has been leading up to him finally being able to be his own person, to break free from his father's control.
For so long, all I wanted was for you to love me, to accept me. I thought it was my honor that I wanted. But really, I was just trying to please you. You, my father, who banished me just for talking out of turn. My father, who challenged me, a 13-year-old boy, to an Agni Kai. How can you possibly justify a duel with a child?
It was to teach you respect.
It was cruel, and it was wrong.
Then you've learned nothing.
No, I've learned everything. And I've had to learn it on my own. Growing up, we were taught that the Fire Nation was the greatest civilization in history. And somehow, the war was our way of sharing our greatness with the rest of the world. What an amazing lie that was. The people of the world are terrified by the Fire Nation. They don't see our greatness. They hate us. And we deserve it. We've created an era of fear in the world. And if we don't want the world to destroy itself, we need to replace it with an era of peace and kindness.
My opinion is Zuko's redemption arc almost certainly concludes at this moment. Zuko's redemption arc is kind of very much tied in with his father, right? So in the first season, he has this very much desire and this need to capture Aang to get his father's approval. And in the second season, he still kind of has this desire, but it kind of slowly starts to fade away until his sister brings it back up. And in the third season, he finally has it. He finally has his father's love and approval. This has been the driving force that he has needed and wanted. And for him to be able to reject it directly to his father kind of shows us just how much Zuko has grown. It makes Zuko's redemption into something that is much more relatable, much more of an average human emotion of changing who we are and kind of breaking free from peer pressure. Not purely from parents, but also from friends, work, colleagues, various different pressures that we feel that other people put on to us. That is what Zuko's redemption story is. Him joining Team Avatar is almost icing on the cake for me. It's also the time when he finally gets to reunite with Iroh, that one person that has been his voice of reason, the person that has been focusing on him becoming the better person, I think a lot of people can learn a lot from Iroh. Because he doesn't try to force it down Zuko's throat. He understands if he did force it down his throat, Zuko would rebel against it. What he does instead is he allows Zuko to find his own path, only guiding him to the right way, and hopes and trusts Zuko will be able to redeem himself. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I am the Forgotten Critic, and once again, I have been forgotten. There was a lot of Zuko's story that I didn't cover in this video. For example, the final Agni Kai with his sister, and if you are interested in that, interested in me doing a video essay purely examining that fight, please let me know down in the comment section. Have a nice day.